Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Alright, to kick things off, we're talking about PlayStation 3 emulation on Android with APS3E, and APS3E just got a brand new update. So at the time of filming, APS3E version 1.28 is the latest update. And unfortunately with this update there is no changelog, but we can take a look at GitHub to compare previous versions. Unfortunately again, details are pretty scarce here. There's been one total commit, 48 files that have been changed, and all by the same contributor. Now if we take a look, there's 17,516 additions and 132 deletions. So this seems to be a pretty big change, but unless you're reading through all of the code, it's going to be pretty hard to determine exactly what changed here. Additionally here, if you really wanted to dig into the details, APS3E is based on RPCS3. Both are open source, and you could compare the code bases between the two to see what they brought in. APS3E is on the Google Play Store. It's got over 500,000 downloads, and it was just updated on the Google Play Store as well. And based on testing I have seen, it seems that there were some improvements to emulation overall, but I wouldn't expect huge performance for AAA games on a mobile device. I think devices are going to have to get more powerful, and this is going to have to be refined quite a bit. I don't necessarily think that this is ready for prime time just yet. But for 2D games, I've seen this perform okay. But that being said, some people have reported stuff like God of War and Call of Duty up and running at around 10 to 15 frames per second on a flagship device. We'll have to wait and see what happens with APS3E moving forward in terms of optimization, in terms of what can happen. But I wouldn't really hold my breath for AAA games running at like 60 frames per second anytime soon. And speaking about interesting stuff, next up we're talking about the Karters 2 Turbocharged. And this is an indie game that has just released that has mod support. And if you're a fan of stuff like Crash Team Racing, you may be a fan of this indie game. This game is currently in early access. It's currently 20% off. And taking a look here, I think the game does look pretty cool. I may have to check it out. There's 16 tracks across 4 wild environments. There's 6 dedicated combat arenas. There's 14 different power-ups. There's modding support, and I think that's the hugest one. Split screen and online matchmaking, and even more. Now, this was sent to me as a news tip. It was not a promotion. It was someone who's a fan of the game currently playing it. And taking a look at the mods, I mean, yeah, if you're a fan of Crash Team Racing, this may be up your alley. This to me is super, super cool. But I don't know here. Let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. Would this game be up your alley? Would it scratch that Crash Team Racing or Mario Kart itch? I think from a PC standpoint, this may fit the bill as one of the better kart games out there. It's still currently in early access, though I haven't played it, so that may be a hot take and a very bold statement. But at the same time, just based on the trailer here, it's piqued my interest. And speaking about stuff that looks impressive, next up here, we're talking about Red Dead Redemption running at 30 FPS on a Nintendo Switch emulator, that Nintendo Switch emulator known as Eden. So taking a look here at Reddit emulation on Android, and someone's got a post, and fortunately it is a video so you can see the thing in action and see it live, as opposed to just a screenshot where someone may have just slapped an FPS counter on. The game seems to be running pretty darn smooth. Now it is running on a Poco F6 Pro, which I think has a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 in it, so it's not necessarily any sort of slouch of a chip. But at the same time here, let me know your thoughts about this running at 30 FPS. And continuing to speak about impressive stuff and stuff on mobile, next up here we're talking about Counter-Strike and Counter-Strike Online via Winlator CMod v13. Now we talked about Winlator CMod v13 just the other day, and it seems people are checking this one out, and someone does have Counter-Strike running online. I'm not going to lie, I'd be curious to see competitive play and how everything works. I'd be curious to see lag and controller latency and all of that stuff. It seems like it's working very well and playable, and I think that's the big word here, playable. And speaking about multiplayer stuff and playable, next up here we're talking about Battlefield 6. Now, on a side note, it seems that EA has a lot riding on Battlefield 6, and if it doesn't do well, I think that's going to be very bad for EA. Anyways, here, if you're interested in Battlefield 6's multiplayer, there's the multiplayer reveal event happening today. Now, after this reveal event, which is a weird name for a reveal event, considering this game has been a very poorly kept secret. Stuff just keeps leaking about this thing left, right, and center. But anyways, after the reveal event, there's going to be 3+ hours of live gameplay from over 400 content creators. So if you wanted to check out multiplayer action for Battlefield, you can probably check out a replay if you've missed it. Either way here, I think if you're looking forward to Battlefield 6, this will be pretty important to check out. And on a quick side note here, speaking of reveals and poorly kept secrets and leaks, I mean, Battlefield themselves seems to be a problem for this stuff. They accidentally leaked the release date of Battlefield 6, which is going to be, I guess, October 10th, and this tweet is now deleted, but it was public, a lot of people saw it, and a lot of people captured it. And speaking about capturing things, next up here, it seems that a developer may have been captured using stolen artwork. That was a really bad transition. Anyways, here, this is being reported over on timeextension.com. If you wanted to learn more about it, like everything we talk about, links are in the description below right at the bottom. I don't hide my sources. Anyways, here, listen to this title. Developer of new €60 Mega Drive Genesis game accused of using stolen artwork. So the game in question here is a shooter called Death and Lead. And if you wanted to see gameplay, again, check out a link in the description below. I'll link this video here. So here is the accusation, and it comes from Crocodile. This is why you cannot trust YouTubers and publishers in the retro gaming space. This 2025 Mega Drive game presented as better than most SNES game has assets traced over existing sprites, Wild Guns and Shinobi 3. And AI-generated backgrounds, garbage game, garbage company, garbage shill YouTuber. Crocodile goes on to say, I think I found where they lifted the locomotive from. It's not easy to tell because theirs is lower res, but the shapes in the smoke are very similar as well as the details on the engine. And just taking a look at the two images side by side here, and I would say they look extremely similar. The coloring is a little bit different. But the smoke, even the smoke on this one seems extremely similar. So to find this stuff, I guess Crocodile had a pretty scientific way in order to do it. They say, if you wonder, I just Googled Steam Train pixel art, and it's the 8th result. Taking a look at some of the comments and replies here, and it seems that this may not be the first instance of something like this happening. This person says his previous game, The Four Winds, does the same. And this person says, Kai Magazine did this since starting as a hobbyist on the MSX scene decades ago. Here's another one I found, also on a stream for their latest game. Chat found the ending traced backgrounds from the last played 1 and 2. And taking a look at the rest of the comments, and it doesn't really seem like anyone is defending this game. This person says, I asked them at the end of May who was their artist and received no reply. Now I know why. I mean, for a hobbyist homebrew, that wouldn't be a big deal, but a commercially sold game with a publisher behind it, not the best look. I recommend checking out the Time Extension article for more information on the matter, but let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. And speaking about controversial stuff, next up we're talking about Capcom. Now, we've been talking about Capcom quite a bit over the last number of months. We talk about Capcom quite a bit normally. But anyways here, recently over the last number of months, this company seems to keep getting W after W, where W stands for subscribe to Mr. Sujano, or win, depending on how you wanted to interpret that. Anyways here, it seems that Capcom has taken an L, or a loss. Capcom's share price dropped sharply in Japan following soft Monster Hunter Wild sales quarter. I'd recommend checking out the article over on VGC for more information on the matter. But the reporting here between April 1st and June 30th, Capcom sold 477,000 copies of Monster Hunter Wilds. Now that may seem like a lot for a 3-month period, but that number pales in comparison to when the game first launched. When the game first dropped, it sold 8 million copies in the opening week, setting a Capcom record, and 10 million units in the first month. 477,000 copies in a 3-month period since then. It just seems that sales have fallen off a cliff. I mean, for some comparison here, during the exact same period, Monster Hunter Rise sold 389,000 copies. So seeing Monster Hunter Wilds sell a little bit more than that is a little bit concerning. And absolutely no surprise here, share prices were affected because of it. It's being reported that the Capcom share price dropped 9.5%. Now, one of the baffling things, in my opinion, about Monster Hunter Wilds was the report of those huge sales figures, even though the reviews were, I would say, not reflective of the amount of sales the game was getting. I mean, taking a look on Steam here, overall it's got a mixed review score, and recently it's been overwhelmingly negative. Selling 10 million copies with a mixed review score, overwhelmingly negative review score, to me, it doesn't match up. But maybe now the reviews and everything is catching up and things are coming full circle. I don't know. I'm not going to lie here. I'm curious to see if Capcom can turn things around for the game, because it seems that they rely on the Monster Hunter franchise to carry the company. That could be a hot take. Anyways, here, taking a look at some of the recent reviews, and it does seem that performance is one of the big causes of the negativity. If you play Monster Hunter Wilds, let me know your thoughts about it in the comments below in terms of performance and I guess in terms of recent sales. Very interesting that a lot of people rushed to buy this game at the beginning, and then the player base hasn't really seemed to grow by a whole lot. I mean, 477,000 is still quite a bit, but at the same time, compared to those initial numbers, it is very concerning. And on a side note to that, it kind of makes me wonder about the Nintendo Switch 2 and those sales figures. I mean, Switch 2 started out extremely strong, even though there's been some controversial takes about the Switch 2 recently, or controversial information, like the pricing, and the LCD screen criticisms, and the game key card stuff, and Nintendo Switch 2 banning, and I'm just going to stop there because I could keep going. Anyways, though, I'm wondering if Switch 2 sales will continue on being as hot as they are, or will they fall off a cliff kind of like Monster Hunter Wilds did after they got the initial player base? Let me know your thoughts about that one. And speaking about thoughts and controversial stuff, next up we're talking about Stop Killing Games. And there's an article here that's, well, it's generating quite a bit of chatter. It is an opinion piece, but it is by an IP lawyer. So the title here is "The Stop Killing Games Initiative Doesn't Understand What It's Asking For." Now, I'm not going to lie here. Part of me wonders if this arguably controversial take is just there to get some recognition and to get their name out there, or maybe they're being paid by the industry. I really don't know here. It's a really weird stance to take. After reading the article, I've got more questions than answers about it. I'm not going to lie here, I'm wondering if they've read the full Stop Killing Games initiative and everything it stands for and everything it's trying to do, or just cherry-picking certain information. And they are very broad when it comes to talking about things and making some accusations or some assumptions. I mean, they talk about licensing and middleware and that kind of stuff. For example, they say the situation becomes even more complex when licensed content is involved. Take Fortnite, which regularly licenses music, skins, and likeness. If Epic were to shut the game down, retaining this content for offline use would require expensive relicensing or force the removal of large portions of the game experience. Makes you wonder because, for example, I've got Gran Turismo on the PlayStation 2, Gran Turismo 3 on PlayStation 2, and others. Anyways, those have licensed cars in them. Those games are no longer being produced. I can play those games offline. Sony doesn't have to pull the cars from the playable experience because of the license. I mean, the article even talks about cars and licensing. And also, how many older games have you played or do you own that have some pretty significant soundtracks in them where the audio hasn't been removed from the game because the game is no longer being made and maybe they no longer have the licenses to make new versions of the game? Anyways, it's just, I think this article is kind of cherry picking certain things and misrepresenting things a little bit. The IP lawyer recommends a couple of things here that I don't really think would fix the issue, but maybe a step in the right direction. For example, clearly labeling that games are server dependent and you're only buying a license, a temporary license to play the game. That may help, but at the same time still doesn't fix the overarching issue. I'm not going to lie here, I'm curious to see if Ross puts out a video on this and to hear his takes on the matter and if this gets more attention or if this is just kind of something that flies under the radar and is never talked about again. I'm wondering too if this was put out there to be referenced by the people opposing Stop Killing Games at some point in time. Next up here, we're talking about Proton, and if you've got a Steam Deck or if you game on Linux, you might be excited about this. So Proton 10.0-2 beta just dropped, and there's a bunch of stuff that has been fixed and is now playable. So in terms of now playable, there's Stardust Skate, Star Ocean the Divine Force, Champions of Anteria, Click and Forget, WRC Generations, Postmortem, and even more. And in terms of fixes here, they fixed some regressions, like the Warframe launcher should no longer have issues displaying title bar elements. VR chat video playback issue that affected some instances is fixed. The Sims 2 Legacy Collection is playable again. On top of that, and I think a lot of people will like this one, Forza Horizon 4 and 5 no longer require focus change to not have black screen. And there's been even more fixes in here. I'm assuming this is going to be promoted to stable pretty darn quick. And speaking about stuff being released pretty quick, next up we're talking about Shantae Advanced Risky Revolution. It was announced this game will be released on August 19th for a price for the standard edition of $25. And this game is headed to Steam and Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, PS4, PS5, Xbox Series S and X. So basically everywhere. Now, for those who are unaware, this game has kind of been in development, give or take, for about 20 years overall. It was supposed to come out for the Game Boy Advance, but never did. But since then, it has been, I would say, revisited and remastered per se, or just finished. This one, if you're a fan of Shantae, may be up your alley. And speaking about stuff releasing in August, next up here we're talking about TABS, which stands for Totally Accurate Battle Simulator. Or possibly something else, I just can't quite put my finger on it. Anyways, the Pocket Edition is releasing on August 7th, and that means mobile. So this game will be headed to both Android and iOS, and I've got a hunch here it's going to be very popular. A lot of people seem to be excited about this one, and if you are, let me know your thoughts about it in the comments below. And speaking about things people may be excited about, and also still mobile stuff, next up, we're talking about Hitman Absolution. If you're a fan of the Hitman series and you like to game on mobile, this may be up your alley. Unfortunately, I don't have a release date just yet, just autumn, but I do have a price. This will be priced at about $13.50 USD. Let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below, and if you'd be excited for Hitman Absolution on mobile. And last up here, we're talking about GOG and the GOG Dreamlist. So this is pretty interesting. If you're a fan of Digimon or Digimon World, you might not like this post here. This is right from GOG. And they say between July 1st and July 21st, the game received over 52,000 votes. After reviewing the search, we found that approximately 26,000 votes during that period were cast by fake accounts. To preserve the integrity of the GOG Dreamlist and to keep this support fair and relevant, we've removed these votes. So taking a look at the GOG Dreamlist here, and in first place is Black and White with over 107,000 votes. Then there's Silent Hill 2 Classic, Silent Hill, Freelancer, Black and White 2, Diablo 2, Max Payne, Command & Conquer the Ultimate Collection, The Operative, No One Lives Forever, and then there's Digimon World. Now, I would say here the 26,000 votes that were removed would have put Digimon World in first place overall, and now instead it's got these games in front of it. I would say I'm excited to see Max Payne as high as it is on this list. Let me know your thoughts about the Dreamlist in the comments below, Digimon World, and the rankings. Do you agree with the current votes? But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. We talked about a bunch today. Feel free to discuss anything we talked about in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button. Check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate. Save your state.